Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Alright, X, I have a story for you. I've never told this to anyone before, and today, in the hope of getting some answers, I decided to post this on X. Be around 2 years ago. Be me, your everyday German friend. Had a group of friends from childhood. Let's call them Rich Friend, a really rich kid whose dad got into the steel business and made it big. Black Friend, a white kid who really wanted to be black, but was still fun to hang out with, and Nerd Friend. The title is self-explanatory. As kids, we all had one common interest, Scooby-Doo. So, when we got older, we were seriously into haunted houses. Since we lived in Germany, Berlin at that, we had plenty of abandoned World War II places, battlefield sites, and a shitload of haunted legends. We all practically grew up getting the shit scared out of us. So, after we graduated from high school, Rich Friend invites us on a trip around Europe. None of us are as rich as him, so he practically finances the whole trip. To be honest, none of us wanted to take a handout, but we were all as close as family, so we said thanks and went with it. We went to Amsterdam first. We saw tons of haunted places. One particularly memorable one was our trip to Beardsley Castle. The place was a fucking joke. Remember, we grew up sneaking into abandoned World War II bases, so nothing practically scared us. After a bunch of visits to different cities, we decided to go to Prague. Czechoslovakia is pretty famous for its hauntings, but we didn't really see anything special. In the end, Black Friend, who spoke Slovak, told us about this really haunted place, Hauska Castle. Since we had nothing to do till we were set to go to Kiev, we decided why not. The place, for those of you who don't know, is surrounded by a huge-ass forest, so Nerd Friend suggested that we camp out there. We were all really into the prospect, so Rich Friend got us some camping supplies and we were on our way. But, it turned out that the castle was apparently blocked off by the government. Being the idiots we were, we decided to sneak in at night. After sneaking in, we thought of immediately going to the castle, but we decided to march on deeper into the forest to make sure any patrols didn't catch the smoke from the campfire. I remember that after an hour or two, we came across a big-ass gate. Literally, one of those fancy old ones that we just lying in the middle of the forest. It looked old, and it definitely wasn't iron because it would have rusted. We took a bunch of pictures and decided to move on. Now here is where it starts to get weird. As we kept moving on, we kept hearing noises. At first it was the wind rattling the bushes and the sound of the leaves. We had been doing this nearly our entire lives, so this didn't even scare us. Then, the wind starts blowing really bad, and Nerd Friend suggests that we ought to set up camp. We all listen and do our best to set up camp while the wind is fucking everything over. Then, all of the sudden, it suddenly stops. Literally, all noise just stops. Still not freaked out but noticeably alert. Rich Friend pulls out his gun, don't as how he has one, and Nerd Friend pulls out a book and some salt. Yeah, we had these contingency plans just in case. Black Friend, easily the most fearless of us, decides that we need to take advantage of the wind and set up camp. Forget everything and we all help him. Eventually have everything set up and we all decide to retire for the night. I had some shit-tier nightmares that night. I can't remember what they were, but holy shit, I woke up covered in sweat. Wake up, get dressed and get outside. Everyone, excluding Black Friend, looks like shit. Rich Friend pulls out his GPS and tries to find the castle. The worst possible thing happens. GPS not working. We all panic and reach for our cell phones. Dead. That's not fucking possible. We charged them before coming up here. We're all pretty alarmed. We're not scared of too spooky for me ghosts, but survival in the wild. We all decide to pack up and try and retrace our steps. While doing this, we end up more lost than when we started. Panic is beginning to set in when we hear something loud behind us. All of us are on edge, so Rich Friend whips around holding his gun and shouts, "Come on out." At his command, a guy comes out of the forest, surprising us all. He's holding his hands up, but he looks majorly annoyed. He looks at us all pretty angrily and asks us, "What are you people doing here?" The way he said, "you people," was pretty weird thinking back on it. Also, to describe him, he looked weird. He looked around 6'1", had wild skin and was wearing the weirdest clothes ever. He was wearing a bloody cloak. The weirdest thing was that he had a perfect face. Like, the kind you see in magazines, literally perfect. Not a single acne mark or flaw. He didn't even look human. The guy looked pretty mad. Black Friend, who by the way was not just a wannabe black guy in appearance, took offense to this. Now, a little backstory here. Black Friend was a wannabe alpha. He got beat up a lot because he didn't know when to shut up. So, he started learning some martial arts or something, can't remember, and he eventually became the toughest motherfucker around. This made his attitude worse because now he could back up his threats. Black Friend goes up the guy and is nose to nose with him and calls him a bitch and asks him what the hell he's doing here. Cloaked Friend looks annoyed now. Just before a fight can start, Rich Friend puts on his ass-kissing face and gets between them. He settles the situation and asks him who he is. The guy doesn't respond but looks much less annoyed. He tells us that we really should leave. We're a bit relieved and ask him how to get out of here. At this he nearly jumps back. "You mean, you don't know how to get back?" We all tell him that we're lost. He looks completely paranoid now. We all ask him what's wrong with him. The guy's face shifts back to what it was before and he tells us that we should do our best to find our way out. We're all confused as fuck, and Black Friend, who seems more pissy than usual, tells us that he doesn't like the guy. When we ask him why, he just says, "You know man, just something wrong with him." He starts to leave the way he came. The guy is seriously fast. Weirdest thing was, he wasn't even running, he was just gone. We chase after the guy asking for help but he's already gone. Eventually we decide to screw it and go back to trying to get out of the stupid ass forest. As the sun goes down, we decide to set up camp again, but we're out of butane so we can't build a fire. When nighttime comes, things get weird. We're all trying to sleep but we all keep hearing sounds and noises from the forest. It sounded weird. They sounded weird, all right. Like the sounds of a fight or something. Lots of grunting and shouting. And weird shouting, not the human kind. The wind is seriously string but the trees don't seem to be moving much. Black Friend convinces us to go investigate. For the first time, we're a bit cautious but we grab the gun, a torch and some other shit and head towards the noises. As we head towards the noise, we start feeling really creeped out. And trust me, we haven't felt this kind of feeling since we were 12. Nerd Friend seems to be getting the worst of it. He's clutching his Quran and reciting the Durood Sharif. As we get closer, the air seems to be ice cold, something that definitely should not be happening in June. And then, when we get to where the noises were coming from, there's nothing. Just an empty clearing. We're all relieved that the noises are gone, but then a shiver goes up our spine and we all turn around. No, seriously, we turned around like some synchronized dance move in a Bollywood film. Just as we move, something quickly darts out of our vision. Gunfriend, in his eternal wisdom, whips out his gun and fires 3 rounds. That breaks the spell and we all ask him what the fuck. He tells us that he saw something white and on all fours move way too fast. We all say we should move back to the campsite and sleep, even Black Friend agrees. One issue though, we couldn't find the campsite. Okay, time to panic.jpg. That was not fucking possible. We made sure to walk in a straight line and keep track. Everyone is blaming each other. Something was wrong, guys. We were honest to goodness bros. We never did this before, and one time we got trapped in an abandoned World War II base. I didn't feel right. Still, I managed to bring everyone under control and we managed to find a clearing where we can at least rest. Now, we pick watches, I get first watch and so on. But, rich friend seemed oddly angry to part with his gun. As I took the first watch, I couldn't help but look up. There was barely any moon, but the amount that there was seemed to completely be blocked out by the forest. Another weird thing was that the trees seemed to be curving inwards. Like, they were trying to contain us or something. When my watch came to an end, I woke up nerd friend and handed him the gun. I fell asleep pretty easily, considering the circumstances. I had more nightmares that night, but nothing compared to being woken up by Black Friend's screams. I wake up and Black Friend is ranting like a madman. Shit, he's angry. GIF. I ask Rich Friend, who looks pissed, what's going on? He tells me that Nerd Friend never woke him for his watch. He was gone, we couldn't find Nerd Friend. We did, however, find the gun, empty. We're all pretty angry, worried, creeped out. We looked for Nerd Friend, but it looked like he just vanished. No footprints, nothing. We're pretty sure that he took the bullets for some reason, because the sound of a gunshot would have woken us all up. While we're calling for him, we find another stranger. This time it's a chick. And I'll be damned if it isn't the hottest girl we've ever seen. Literally flawless face, and is wearing a cloak very similar to the one we saw on that guy earlier. She seems to be pretty pissed at us for being here in general. When we explain that we're lost, his face becomes white. She doesn't reply after that and asks us, and I shit you not, has one of you gone missing? We're all alarmed by that. Black Friend, Nerd Friend's best friend, is about to kick her ass. He starts screaming at her and asks her what she knows about Nerd Friend. We try to calm him down, but he rushes at her, intent on kicking her ass. Then, the weirdest thing happens. The girl doesn't even react but catches Black Friend's punch and kicks him straight in the nuts so hard we hear something snap. That should not have been possible. Black Friend is buff and fast as fuck. No person should have been able to catch his punch. It's at that moment, I think that we're not dealing with a person, after all. She looks a bit pissed but just walks off while we tend to Black Friend. Rich Friend chases after her but comes back without a clue to where she went. Then, while we're still looking for Nerd Friend, we find our old camp. And guess who's just sitting opposite the remains of the fire? Fucking Nerd Friend. When he stand up so we can see him, he has this weird full face smile on his face. Like a Cheshire grin or something. First thing we feel is relief that he's fine, the second is anger. We're all pissed at him for walking off, but he apologized profusely, saying he had to use the facilities, we're pretty sure he meant toilet, and found the camp. When we ask him about the ammo in the gun, he's surprised and for the first time, that creepy smile drops. He tells us he doesn't know what we are talking about and we agree, after a heated conversation, to drop it. We start making plans on how to get out when Nerd Friend starts giggling. It starts as a chuckle but then becomes a full-blown laugh. We're all a bit creeped out and Black Friend, fearless motherfucker he is, asks Nerd Friend what's wrong with him. He just says that he was in remembrance. We're a bit confused but Nerd Friend has always been a bit weird. We don't want to leave the camp, so when night falls, we just stay here. Later that night, Rich Friend and Black Friend wake me. They're saying that something's wrong with Nerd Friend and we need to go out and check what's going on. I suspected it too, so after a conversation on what to do we decide to go outside and look around the camp area, but we'll keep track this time to avoid getting lost. We all head out, and make sure not to disturb Nerd Friend in his tent. As we head out, the air gets chilly again and it's literally freezing cold, like, we could see our breath cold. Then, it hits us. It's a smell that Black Friend tells us he recognizes as the son of a butcher. The smell of dead meat. We follow Black Friend and his super sniffer nose. What we find nearly kills us. It's Nerd Friend, although the body looks like it was torn apart. What even worse is that, God guys, I'm sorry, but this is difficult for me to write, he was my bro, you know. His body is infested with maggots. It looks like it's been dead for ages. His copy of the Quran is, however, placed upon a tree stump that is next to him. We did what anyone would do. We all puked. After some sobbing and shouts of Jesus, we run from the scene and get to a clearing. We're all hysterical. Then, Rich Friend looks nearly apocalyptical. I ask him what's wrong, apart from the obvious. He then says, if that was Nerd Friend, then who's back at camp? Oh shit. We all freak the fuck out. Nerd Friend was our primary spirit expert and shit. He's not around anymore. As we being to shout at each other, Black Friend, in the middle of one of his rants, just stops. Just as we're about to ask him what's wrong, he points directly ahead. It's Nerd Friend. Or rather, what looks like Nerd Friend. It's not smiling anymore. Rich Friend pulls out his empty gun and points it. The thing then puts on this completely inhuman smile, like ear to ear, face-ripping smile, and begins to make grunting noises. I didn't recognize them then, but those were the same noises we heard when we first left our camp. We're all shaking, and then, when Black Friend shouts, "Run!" we don't hesitate. As we run, we make sure to stick together. I could honestly feel the thing behind us, it was chasing us. We could barely see, and when Black Friend tripped, me and Rich Friend slowed down to help him up, but in the meantime, the thing was right above us. It had literally jumped 5 feet in the air, and in one motion, hit me right in the chest. I later found out that that one blow nearly crushed my rib cage, broke 4 ribs and nearly killed me. I don't know how far I was flung, but I blacked out after that. In the end, I woke up, battered and bruised in the arms of that guy we met. The only thing I remember before passing out again was the guy whispering words and chanting, while all I remember was his face and a bright light. I woke up in the hospital in Prague. The officers had found my body, on the verge of death on the edge of the forest. No one else was found. We went in the forest on the 5th of July. They found me on September 18th. We only spent 3 days in the forest.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.